Hello everyone, welcome. Thanks for watching this video. Today we are going to be reviewing EX Kilphe, EX Titus, and EX Chel, as well as we're going to be talking about the new piece of equipment from the related box event. And honestly, what a sad bunch. I mean, honestly, we're just gonna yeah. Okay, but no, actually, funnily enough, I had to do that because I had to do a little bit of a bait at the start, just because this is probably one of the best batches of EXs we've ever gotten. I'm actually really excited for all of these, so much that I'm going to say actually 3 times in a row. Actually. Okay. So here we are. We're going to talk about these 3 units first. Let's get into it now that I've wasted enough time to make the YouTube algorithm happy. So let's start off with Chel. Chel has always been a character that I really liked. I think that green mages are particularly undervalued in terms of the game, and I was kind of hoping that she was going to get a really nice EX, and yeah, looks like it. Now, I was holding off building her until I kind of saw this EX, but now that I've seen it, I'm pretty darn happy, and I'll probably end up just basically building her right away here. So what are her upgrades? Let's start with the primary one, which is Dispel. Obviously one of the biggest abilities for her, one of her very unique abilities, so it's great that it's getting an upgrade. Releases all enhancements before within range, and this was on an AoE, plus AoE, and now also gives 3 turns quick down as well as CT down. So it's affecting agility, but it's also affecting CT. It's not a very big effect for agility and CT, but it is enough to be noteworthy. Whenever we see this kind of stuff where basically you're getting a fair amount of like time change, I mean, taking away enhancements is already pretty rough. Seeing that, you know, your characters want those accessible for as long as possible in fights. But now also getting dispelled off of it and losing a little bit of speed in CT might be the difference between winning and losing. So yeah, I think that the dispel buff or the dispel enhancement here is really nice, and definitely pretty strong looking. So I'm pretty happy with this. Taking a look as we go in further into seeing what she gets for stats. As you can see, a whole bunch of different magics, some luck, some PP, a little bit more dexterity, more magic. Primary magic node is always nice, and more magic, which funnels really well into nicely talking about what is her second upgrade. And basically, it's her weakness ability, or erosion. It is the ability that all attributes of the subject are for 3 turns. Essentially, their resistances are down, while also dealing a small amount of damage. Now, nothing has changed anywhere there. The thing that has essentially changed on this is that she is getting a range enhancement. So before it wasn't necessarily the highest amount of range, now it's a little bit better, so she has a little bit more accessibility in terms of reach with this ability, and I do think that long-range debuffs are really good. More recently, the time that I've had with Prompto from FF15, it is amazing how reliably he can get off his long-range debuff, and Chel getting a little bit of extra range on one of her debuffs is great, so I'm happy to see that as well. And the extra magic stat means that it will be more damage dealing, but her last new ability is called Eroding Ice. Ice assertive magic damage, medium level. By the way, I should say we don't have the Wotv calc numbers up, but I don't think that they're going to make a massive amount. This one has a pretty good range of about 4 or 5, but anyway, it deals magic ice related damage that is damage up if the subject is attribute resistant down. So automatically works with weak / her erosion skill status of that, and works with other characters as well, such as Oberyn. In terms of an EX of like something that I'm thinking about in terms of like a limited guild, Oberyn plus Chel might be really interesting because Chel has Time Mage already on in her kit. Now she has this new ability that functions well with Oberyn's Limit Burst, which is a pretty big priority for Oberyn to use a lot of the times. Provided he has the AP, he will use it, so that is looking really good. And it's a medium damage, and she gets a lot of extra magic stat from this EX upgrade. I'm not saying that it's 100% certain, but I am definitely going to be building this character at some point in the future and really testing out to see how well she can do. Either way, Chel is looking like a sure thing needed for the Ice selection quest, but a welcome one. Hello there. Continuing on, let's talk about Titus. Now, Titus, as a tank, honestly, he's one of... I really do like his design, and I like his TMR a bit, but I've never really found him outside the Dark Selection quest there to make big enough difference because their tanks in the UR quality are just so much better. But I do think that his EX goes a long way into him better. So let's take a look at stats first with him. As you can see, he gets a little bit of extra defense on his in his EX here. He gets some more dexterity. He gets a little bit more attack, some more HP, and some more HP. So pretty much everything that I wanted in the proportion that I wanted. I'm not saying that it is the greatest thing of all time, but I am thinking that this is, you know, good enough for what you essentially want for a tank. Taking a look at what he gets for improvements. First of all, his support skill, the Holy Knight skill, which was HP upper limit, as well as defense improvement, is now also getting piercing resistance and shooting attack resistance. He already had a good amount of those resistances to begin with, so he essentially becomes a more specialized tank against shooters, as well as pierce-based damage, and he will be much better against that in the future. I think it's good enough. More resistance on a tank. Not necessarily in his weak spots, but he will be a little more specialized. And maybe that's just good enough most of the time. Especially if spears come back. Might be good. Next up, this is the thing that we always want. So Saint Fortress, or Sentinel, I do believe. This one is, you know, one of the bases of Paladin. I think you always run this a bit. Make yourself a barrier that reduces physical damage. Make it, you know, now it's also getting improved to make him easier to be targeted. So in other words, hate generation. That's the thing. Always looking for in EXs. More hate generation on tanks. Good. And also gives him 3 turns tab resistance up as well, and can be duplicated up to multiple times. 2 times, in fact. So yeah, this is in a really good upgrade. Again, really specialized against pierce and shooting, but that's fine. I'll take that. That seems good here. And last but not least, a brand new attack-based skill with medium damage. The name gives it away. Paralysis Blade. 18 AP is not a high cost. 2 uses is good. Has some good reach on it as well. But the paralysis status effect is really nice, especially for a tank, because a tank is trying to reduce the amount of damage taken to enemies and taken from enemies and damage taken for allies. So paralysis is a pretty good status effect. It is a frustrating status effect because a lot of the times your guys just aren't doing anything while they're paralyzed. Paralyzed is really good, so yeah, I think that this is great. So before we go on to Kilphe, which I'm sure I've mispronounced multiple times by now, just going to wrap it up by talking about Chel and Titus really quickly. Chel and Titus, I'm both giving an A- in terms of a score, because I think their EXs are directly where they need to be, focusing on the stats that they need, the improvements that they need for what their main jobs were. Chel essentially can do more support-based things and better support-based things with some attacks and a fair amount of new magic stat, whereas Titus is looking as much better as a tank and definitely really strong against piercing-based enemies, which with Oberyn lately is a thing. So yeah, I'm gonna say that Titus and Chel came out very nicely. But, of course, that is a big but. we have one more character to talk about, and this is the best one by far. Not even going to beat around the bush with this character. This is a character that a lot of people like and have enjoyed her summer unit, and I have to say that I think that her EX is going to bring her regular unit back into contention, especially with the recent surge of Earth being powerful. With the lack of really good counter wind elemental characters, I think that this is just great. So first of all, stats, a little bit more defense, a little bit more speed, some magic stat. Her primary upgraded one is a magic stat based one. That's exactly what you want for Kilphe. And she gets a little more HP. So generally, the story continues. She's still a magic damage dealer, and she is still a more defensive one against physical units. She's just better at it now with her EX. Great. That's what we want to hear. First improvement, here it is, Energy Buster. This ability is still doing as much damage as it was before to the targets within range, but no ability activation time anymore. It's completely gone. They removed it. It is now an instant ability. This fixes this ability completely. There's nothing to be said about this, really. There's no big discussion. It's just fantastic for her. Next up is her Magic Up level 1. And now we are going to be getting not only a magic bonus, but a spirit defense penetration bonus. So yes, just getting through that spirit stat, going to make her a much more effective damage dealer all around. Kilphe is completely feeling revitalized just from these two that we talked about so far. But yeah, getting through spirit is the thing she needed. I imagine that it is pretty the standard going rate right now, which is 40. Again, don't have the specific numbers, but I'd be really surprised if it was anything other than 40. This makes all of her magic damage capabilities much more effective now. Great. Fantastic. Moving on. And to sum it all up, her last ability right here, Magic Amber, I do believe is the translation, but that's rough. 3-turn own magic attack power up, defense up, and AP consumption down. It is a 24 TP, so the cost is not even that high, and she gets 3 uses of it. This is insane. I mean, just because it completes her kit even more. Gives her a really strong magic buff, a more defense so that she can be good against other physical units. She's essentially a cloud killer now if she wasn't before. And last but not least, but just reducing the cost of other abilities in her kit for AP is so valuable and so necessary. And I think so long as her AI prioritizes this, man, did she get a great one. So I gotta just say, other than her movement still being a little bit too slow from early impressions and obviously not a fully built unit at this point, I have to say that I think that it's a solid A, verging on an A+. This is one of the best EXs we've seen on an older character because it's all the stats in the places where they need to be. It is improving her best and most unique skill, and it's making her more on par with a lot of other mages. I'm incredibly happy how this turned out, and I think that this will be a slam dunk for any fans of the character that are looking for, bringing her back into use. 3 months, Globalers, 3 months. But yeah, an absolutely amazing combination of EXs this time, and I think just fantastic top to bottom, whichever character you like, or if you like all 3, they're all great investments for different reasons, and I think they'll do you well. But we are not just here to talk about that, we're also going to make just a really quick note about the FF15 event, which recently, up until now, I have not been thinking that the FF15 event has been any kind of noteworthy. It's been really boring and bland, and it changed in an instant tonight because the new event has a piece of equipment, Prompto's armband. And this armband is noteworthy. And unfortunately, it is what I am classifying as a mandatory farm for the most part. Either Vitality, Critical, or Barrier are the versions. I don't have those 3 versions to look at stats right now. You can check them out. Ultima. But early opinions seem to be that the barrier or the critical versions are probably best. So why does this thing matter? It has physical human killer on it. When maxed out at a +5, it has a +15 to human killer for physical, whether this is for gunners, spears, fists, or anything else. Given the amount of human characters in this game, I don't think I need to explain much further as to why this is. This is a big power up for tons of characters and a essential piece for high tier guild wars. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of talk that people are going to be trying to farm 3+5s on the JP side. So just to know what kind of a big deal this is now. I mean, obviously it's not going to completely, but anyone who doesn't have this going forward will have a hard time competing against people in PvP who don't have it, unless there's a non-limited version. See. Anyway, so yeah, had to make a very special note of that, but there you go. And I guess really quickly, I didn't think about it at the start of this video, but let's review the summon. Is of course Domo arigato, Mr. Robato. Vision card ended up being, I think, pretty mediocre. I'm not like, its attack up by 10, its shooting resistance up by 10, it gives range resistance of 20 and stab resistance of 18 for the entire party, and critical incidence of ice tribute by 25. All that's for the party, sorry, and for the unit, attack up by 10 and shooting resistance. Honestly, I think that the vision card isn't as big of a deal as the summon. The summon is looking a little bit more tasty, definitely for any people who are interested in ice-based units. It has critical damage, it has slash resistance, it has ice attribute attack up. What else? Wind killer, ice resistance, critical incidence, machine killer, avoidance rate, attack up. Yeah, it's a physical attack ice-based summon specifically for fears. So if you're a big fan of Victora, this is definitely the summon for her. And if you are interested in Aranea, you need this summon, basically. There you go. Short review, good summon for those specific units, and outside of that, yeah. So yeah, there you go. Amazing batch of EXs, a fantastic piece of equipment to be farming now on the JP side and for the future for global. And last but not least, a fantastic summon for Ice Speed. There you go. That's everything. Thanks for watching. Make some more videos in the future. See you next time.